Welcome to the Mind Spark, bringing you the latest news from around the world. There's a heavy silence that settles over a town, a kind of quiet that feels unnatural, almost suffocating when the familiar rhythms of daily life suddenly stop. This silence grows deeper when its main employer shuts down, leaving behind not just empty buildings, but a void in the community's soul. In Perry, Iowa, the Tyson pork plant was more than a building. It was the town's heartbeat, pulsing with energy and purpose every single day. Its whistle marked the beginning and end of shifts. Its jobs paid the bills, put food on tables, and its presence shaped the very identity of the community. Now, the plant is silent, the parking lot empty, a stark, haunting reminder of what's been lost and what may never return. This isn't just a closed factory, it's the erasure of a community's identity, a place where generations built their lives and futures. The closure of Tyson in Perry and another in Knoll, Missouri, ripped out the economic engine of these towns, leaving uncertainty and fear in their wake. For generations, these jobs were the foundation, tough, demanding, but reliable. Families depended on them, passing down stories of hard work and perseverance. When those jobs vanished, it wasn't just a statistic. It was a tear in the social fabric, a wound that doesn't heal easily. Across the heartland, the story repeats itself. Fences go up, security guards replace workers, and the hum of industry is replaced by the lonely whistle of the wind. Every drive past the shuttered gates is a fresh reminder of loss and anxiety, a daily confrontation with an uncertain future. This silence is expensive, paid for with foreclosures, empty diners, and families watching their savings dwindle, wondering what comes next. The promise of jobs, jobs, jobs rings hollow when the loudest sound is your own footsteps echoing down a once bustling main street, now lined with shuttered shops. These are the real-world consequences of policies that look good in headlines but devastate communities, leaving real people to pick up the pieces. The silence isn't peaceful. It's the sound of a way of life disappearing, a quiet that echoes with memories, loss, and the hope that something better might one day return. When a giant like Tyson Foods leaves, it's not just a plant closing, it's the first domino in a chain reaction. In Knoll, Missouri, nearly 1,500 jobs vanished overnight in a town of just over 2,000. These weren't just workers, they were neighbors, customers, and the backbone of the local economy. Suddenly, grocery stores, mechanics, and coffee shops lose business. Each lost paycheck ripples out, strangling dozens of small businesses. School enrollment drops, funding shrinks, and essential services like libraries and fire departments are threatened. The community hollows out, families move away, events dwindle, and the sense of shared purpose fades. The closure isn't just economic, it's deeply personal. Lifelong neighbors say goodbye, scattering in search of stability. The factory's closure dismantles the community, piece by painful piece. What's left is a ghost town haunted by memories of what used to be. This is the true human cost that headlines miss. How did towns like Perry and Knoll end up in such dire straits? The answer lies in a single word: tariffs. These small towns, once bustling with life and opportunity, now face empty streets and shuttered businesses, all because of decisions made far away from their daily reality. The Trump administration promised that tariffs would protect American jobs by making foreign goods more expensive and less attractive. The idea was simple: shield American workers and industries from overseas competition and prosperity would follow. But the global economy is a complex web. Pull one thread, and the whole thing can start to unravel. Every action has a reaction, and in a world as interconnected as ours, consequences ripple outward in unexpected ways. Other countries didn't just sit back, they retaliated, targeting iconic American products like soybeans, bourbon, pork, and poultry, industries that are the backbone of rural America. Suddenly, U.S. agricultural goods became too expensive abroad, slamming companies like Tyson Foods and leaving warehouses full of unsold products. Tyson faced a double blow: rising costs for materials due to tariffs and shrinking export markets as foreign buyers turned away. The company struggled to keep production lines moving. For workers, it was like running a race with your shoelaces tied together, frustrating, exhausting, and ultimately impossible to win. The very policies meant to protect American industry ended up hurting it, closing doors instead of opening them. Tyson wasn't beaten by foreign competition, but by its own government's policies that backfired and left workers in the lurch. Profits shrank, markets destabilized, and drastic cuts followed. The economic shockwaves spread quickly, leaving entire communities reeling. The pain wasn't felt in Washington, it landed squarely in Perry and Knoll, where thousands lost their livelihoods, and families were forced to pack up and leave the only homes they'd ever known. This is the tragic irony of the trade war. Policies designed to help ended up hurting the very people they were meant to protect. The cost of this failed economic experiment wasn't paid by politicians or policymakers, it was paid by America's heartland, by the workers and families who form the backbone of the nation. The damage from tariffs didn't stop at the factory gates, it rippled through the entire supply chain. For years, farmers raised livestock, sold to Tyson, and Tyson exported meat worldwide. Retaliatory tariffs blocked exports, creating a surplus at home and crashing prices. Hog farmers lost money on every animal, many facing financial ruin. Some had expanded operations, betting on global demand. Now, they were trapped by debt. As farmers struggled, they cut back, destabilizing the supply for processors like Tyson. Tyson, unable to export, flooded the domestic market, further depressing prices. The entire ecosystem, farmers, truckers, feed mills, vets, felt the squeeze. A trade dispute over steel ended up threatening corn farmers and veterinarians. This is the chaos of a single policy decision. You can't isolate one part of the system without causing widespread damage. The ripple effects were devastating and unpredictable. Everyone in the chain paid the price. Closing a factory in a small town is like pulling the keystone from an arch. Remove it, and the whole structure begins to crumble. The factory isn't just a building, it's the beating heart of the community, supporting families, businesses, and the local spirit. In Perry, Tyson's closure meant 1,200 jobs lost overnight, a devastating blow for a town of its size. But the real impact rippled far beyond the factory gates, touching every corner of daily life. Economists call it the multiplier effect. When one major employer shuts down, the consequences multiply throughout the community. For every factory job lost, several more disappear in the community, as local shops, restaurants, and service providers lose their customers. Family-run businesses that once thrived on factory workers' patronage are forced to close their doors, leaving main streets eerily quiet. Perry is projected to lose a quarter of its property tax base, a catastrophic blow. That money funds police, firefighters, roads, and parks, all essential for a safe and vibrant community. The town faces impossible choices. How do you keep the lights on when the budget is slashed? Leaders must decide whether to raise taxes on already struggling residents or cut essential services, like emergency response and education. The demographic impact is severe. Schools lose students, classrooms empty out, and the town's future looks uncertain. Many workers were immigrants and refugees who had revitalized the town with new energy and culture. With the plant gone, these families are forced to leave in search of opportunity elsewhere, taking diversity and vitality with them. The population shrinks, businesses close, and property values fall, creating a downward spiral that's hard to reverse. Services become harder to sustain and the sense of community begins to fade. Each family that leaves makes it even harder for those who remain, prompting even more to pack up and go. The closure didn't just take jobs, it took away hope, connection, and the promise of a better tomorrow. It stripped away the town's future, leaving behind empty streets and fading memories. Now, Perry faces the real prospect of becoming a ghost town. A stark reminder of how one closure can unravel an entire community. The fallout from trade policies wasn't limited to meatpacking, it hit industries across America. Tariffs created chaos for manufacturers who rely on global trade. Take Boeing tariffs on imported aluminum raised costs, while retaliatory tariffs threatened billions in sales. Bourbon distillers in Kentucky lost European markets, forcing layoffs and cutbacks. Trade wars are indiscriminate, they hurt everyone, not just the intended targets. From soybean farmers to motorcycle makers, American businesses were penalized by their own government's policies. The promise of protecting jobs turned into widespread instability. There's a vast gap between political promises and the reality for those left behind. Politicians promised protectionism would bring back jobs and prosperity. For workers like Maria and Perry, those promises now feel like a cruel joke. She worked hard, believed in the plant's stability, and built a life for her family. Now she faces an uncertain future in a town with no major employers. The search for work is desperate, the safety net thin, and the sense of betrayal deep. Politicians have moved on, leaving broken communities in their wake. The rhetoric was about strength, the reality is loss and anxiety. The people of Perry and Noel were used as props, then abandoned. The lesson policies based on slogans have real, painful consequences. So what's the answer? We need real solutions, not slogans. First, strengthen the social safety net, make unemployment benefits accessible and healthcare independent of jobs. Invest in long-term job training for industries of the future with real support for workers. Help towns diversify with federal grants, loans, and infrastructure investment. Build local wealth that stays in the community. Demand leaders measure policy by its impact on real people, not just statistics. The stories of Perry and Noel remind us, bad policy has real victims. It's time for honest, practical solutions that invest in American workers.